Everybody, it's Casual Boops coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be covering the CS-63. It is it's the tier 10 Polish medium tank, and it's got this turbo mode that's kind of a novelty. And unlike most of the special little gimmicky things that Wargaming puts on tanks, the tier 8 and 9 and the tier 8 and 9 do not have it. The premium tank doesn't have it. Only the tier 10 has it for some reason. But it's kind of a novelty. It is used in Clan Wars for very specific things. And it is very unique. I particularly don't actually care for mine because I just feel like I'm in a worse Leopard 1. But we're going to talk about that. It does have some strong suits, and there's some strong meme potential with it. So we'll do a very quick review of the line, and then get into the gameplay. So all right, let's get into it. Okay, so talking about the tanks in the line, the tier 5 is forgettable. The tier 6, the Boogie, is actually pretty solid, and it has two guns that are both competitive. It's got a 90mm gun, which is a little more consistent, and it's got a 100mm derp gun, which is kind of interesting. And it used to be better before the changes, but it has an HE round and also an AP round that does 300 damage, which I really like the derp gun, but also you can make a strong case for the 90mm. I believe this tank is actually getting nerfed in the upcoming. It's in super test, so I'll just go ahead and hold my breath for this. But until that happens, the Boogie is surprisingly fun. The Poodle, the premium, is a pretty solid little pew pew. It is almost a straight exact copy of the tier 6 VK 30.02M on the tech tree. It's a fine tank. It's fun. The CS-44 I actually quite enjoyed. It's kind of like a T-20 that is a little bit slower, has kind of a little bit more bouncy things, but less. I mean, it's similar to a T-20, right? It's okay. The CS-53 is a piece of hot trash. It is worse in every way to the CS-53 list. It's just awful. It's just not a very good tank. I wouldn't say awful. There are so many worse tanks out there, but this is not. The CS-53 is not enjoyable. It's just not good at anything. It doesn't have any armor. It's not very fast. The gun's not that great. The CS-59 is more of the same, where it's just not that fast and the gun's not that great. It's just kind of bleh. And I wouldn't call them bad, but I certainly had no desire to play the tank ever again after I finished it. And then you get to the CS-63, the tier 10. So the notable things about it, if it's 3.9, there's a lot of things here that are fairly standard, right? The dispersions, dispersion, the penetration, and the DPM are all fine. The soft stats are all good. I will say that let me see here. The gun depression is 8 is all good. The terrain resistances are fine. Like, this is during standard mode, right? During just like moving around mode. 55 top speed is okay. 18 power to weight is a little sluggish. I've noticed that too. When you're just moving around, it does not feel like a fast tank, and it kind of isn't. It's normal middle of the road medium tank speed. And again, the gun feels okay. It's just 0.35 does kind of let you down. I mean, the Leopard 1 has so much better final accuracy than this. But at 400 meters base view range, it's just like, it does have the bouncy angles. Like a Leopard 1 really can't bounce anything, and the CS-63 will surprise you. So that's one thing it has going for it. It also is a sniper medium tank, which means the field mods are stupid and broken. But first we'll get into the armor. Like I said, the armor is not great, right? You're looking at this and you're like, all right, you shouldn't be bouncing anything. And it's true, you shouldn't. But you will. You will occasionally bounce things because it's got this very angled upper plate, very angled lower plate, and the roundy kind of turret. So if somebody gets a square shot at you, yeah, they're gonna pen. But if they hit these outsides or this hull or whatever, like, I've seen things bounce off of a CS that shouldn't have bounced off of anything. So it can happen. It's a thing, but the armor is not great, right? And so that's why in practice, you should never rely on it, but you can get surprised. So that is the armor. It's not awesome. The field mods and equipment. So this one is, field mods are easy. It's durability always, improved sight always. This one, it depends how you play it, right? Because on one hand, camouflage is huge, right? And not having camouflage is really like, 25 is the bare minimum. So I think probably I would either pick neither one of these, or I would pick the anti-reflective headlight coatings. And it doesn't make a huge difference, right? Going from 25 to 28 neither one of those is good, but at least one of those is usable. right? I mean, I'd rather have that than 22. 22 is like, well, you are kind of a shit barn a little bit. So there's that. Scouting slot, again, this is part of this depends on how you play it. I'm probably taking the scouting slot. This is the one. This field mod is really silly, and it's for sniper things. I'm always taking the -2 the final aiming size, right? Reload I can deal with, right? I can cope with that. But the final aiming circle, getting down 5%, that's huge. And then also, because this one, normally I'm picking engine power because aiming speed is stupid. So yeah, but there's this, and then of course you've got a decent crew, and you run food like me. You actually get to a pretty decent tank, right? And maybe I need to give this thing more of a chance. I have only played it a few times, and I don't really care for it because, again, I just wish I was in a Leopard all the time. But if you tap the siege mode button, the travel mode, right, now all of a sudden everything gets crazy, right? Your engine power doubles basically, and you get 30 power to weight and 70 top speed, and everything is ridiculous. Except your dispersion factors go to absolute shit. You can't hit anything. It's like you're driving a T-49 around. So it's travel mode, right? It's 2 seconds of being stationary to turn into this. But it's not, there's a use, right? You can scoot out of things, in and out of position. You are much more mobile. You can ram things. That's nice. So as far as equipment, this is debatable. How I have chosen to outfit mine is with a turbo in the mobility slot, and then a rammer, and then V-stabs. V-stabs. This is how I have chosen to do it. And then of course, if you switch into travel mode with this, you get a 75 top speed, and everything is just even dumber, right? But I'm not going to necessarily say that this is the best way or the only way. You could definitely, if your crew's not very good, you should probably have optics in here, right? Instead of turbo, you probably still want your rammer. This is probably how I would do it for most people if you don't have a very good crew. But again, there's a lot of ways to do this. And then of course you could have an alternate setup that's more snipey, perhaps, depending on the map. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this, to be honest, because this is kind of just like a Leopard 1, sort of, but it doesn't have the camo. So this is how I would do it, though. And again, there's a lot of meme potential with this tank because, again, in the movie mode, in the travel mode, it is just absurd. The 30 power to weight means 33 power to weight, which means that's like light tank levels. So you really have the ability to do some pretty silly stuff. So let's watch some silly stuff. Alright, so in this game we're going to be watching the Oscar, and he's platooning with Big Scott, and they are, Big Scott's in his IS-7, and the Oscar is in his CS-63. You start out the game in travel mode always, and so that's why all of a sudden now you're seeing where you, like, I called this video the pain train, because this is what it is, right? The IS-7 speed build can already do stupid things, but it lacks the engine power. Well, now you've just basically got a CS-63 as engine power attached to the back. So even up this hill, we're doing 55. And then you take the IS-7's armor that it has, and you get a silly combination. So the game, though, we're on what map is this? This is just one of those. I have this one blacklisted because I think it's awful. Safe Haven, I think it's called, and it's a tier 10 game. There's 1 artillery. There's tier 9s in it as well, but no tier 8s. And so far, the Oscar and Big Scott are going up to this side, and normally I would expect them to take this kind of really aggressive route, and they have kind of done that, right? Going to the middle dip here. But of course you can only have, you want to just, I don't think, he doesn't see the Leopard PTA. It's Leopard PTA, Oscar. Oscar, there's a PTA. Oscar, there's a PTA. But you can see it does, like, the DPM is fine. The accuracy can be okay, but at these distances, right, at 500 meters, you are kind of, this is what I'm used to, right? The reticle's as big as the tank. You can't hit weak spots. You might not even hit the tank itself, but in these particular cases, that one, so that we hit those, right? But this is, again, they're like, part of the downside here is that this particular deployment, right, the Oscar and Big Scott have taken their pain train up north, but they also haven't really pushed the north. So because of that, the area on the BCD line is underpowered, right? There are not very many tanks down there, so they're getting kind of steamrolled. So this is not going very well so far, and it's really hard to push out of the top side here because there's all these little angly things and crossfires and stuff, and this is part of the reason that I have this god-awful map blocked, because it's just a terrible design. You can't push the north, and then the south sucks. And so anyway, so Oscar goes ahead and switches back into turbo mode, but then he's about to go leave and go back to help the town, but he realizes the Big Scott needs to be pushed, so you're gonna wait for Big Scott. And now we're gonna saddle up the pain train and come back down. And actually, this is funny about this. We're coming down the hill. Coming down the hill in the IS-7 pain train. So we'll just see. But you know, I don't know. There's definitely some ramming potential. But the big thing is we should get there lickety split. And that's the big strong point about this tank, is that the ability to flex. Right, you can be everywhere. You have light tank levels of speed. And now here's a super conk that we're just gonna, all right, we have to pause for 2 seconds, and then we get into it. Now, if it were me, I probably would have used the IS-7 as a battering ram and pushed and rammed the super conk. And also, Big Scott, stop face hugging, dude. Stop face hugging. Can't help you if you face hug. And so that's perfect. Big Scott backs up. So note to self, if you guys are playing with somebody and you've got a bunch of teammates that are paying attention, do not face hug an enemy, because what you're doing is giving that enemy hull down cover, right? If you notice here, Big Scott was doing that, was giving hull down cover to the super conk, so Oscar had nothing to shoot at. And that's one little thing just to keep in mind, as not to, oh my god, the ram and the shot, that's perfect. And now again, we're just creating 2v1s, right? So because we were able to be aggressive, and the IS-7 is a battering ram, and was able to go in there and get the shots in and get a ram and get that burst damage. So now these guys were 2 people, and now it's just an IS-7 versus 2 and 3 people. So we've stabilized, right? We've stabilized the town. It is still 8-8, but now we're switching back into speed mode, and we're going to see what else we need to do, right? And notice how huge the reticle gets with the CS when it's in travel mode. But again, the big strength here is the ability to scooch around the map and just be wherever you need to be. And whoop. Okay, get around the dead bodies here. And we can see here that the Cobra is on the top of the hill, or on the top of the building. So Big Scott's going to go up, and Oscar's going to go up. And Scott has lost a bunch of his hit points. He's like a 2 or maybe a 3 shot, but Oscar has all of them. So before he crests, he's going to do this. He's going to switch into the shooting mode. And unfortunately, though, that is a Cobra. And if the Cobra is loaded, it doesn't appear like the Cobra is loaded, but if the Cobra was loaded, the Cobra could clip out the CS-63 from full hit points. Ask me how I know. That was a dangerous poke, right? We had to just hope that Cobra wasn't loaded, or maybe they were paying attention. But now we're gonna wait for these guys to push and try to save our Waffle. The Wafflentrager is over there spotting their approach. Oscar, look. Left, see if they whoop. Oh god, okay, so this T-54E1 is definitely loaded, and you can see Oscar did bounce 2 rounds. So this is what I'm saying, the armor in this is not good, but it is all angly and weird. And so now we've baited 2 shots of that from that T-54E3, but he's out right now. He's got like 40 seconds. So now at this point, oh my god, okay, maybe I need to give this tank another shot. I don't know. Because this makes me want to play it, I'll be honest. Oscar, good game. But now, okay, so there's the 2 tanks, the 2 medium tanks that are kind of stuck up there in the top, and then there's the artillery. So Oscar's gonna go take out some artillery, switch into speed mode again, and go and find that artillery, which they're always at A1 or maybe F1 or whatever on this map. So I'm gonna scooch over there and look at it. The 30 power to weight and 75 top speed is just absurd how quick this thing can move around the map. The one thing I have trouble with this thing, because it's very easy to run yourself into trouble, right? If you get out there ahead of where your team can help you, doesn't matter how fast you are, because you're by yourself. So it's worth noting that it can be hard to use. It's very easy to, whoop, oh god, we don't want to get shotgunned. So we're gonna go ahead and just try to find the okay, so now that the 2-1-2 shot, now it's basically free. But okay, so now we have a 430U and a Centurion 7-1, but everybody is kind of low on hit points. So I mean, this is a throwable game. I've just seen so many. My faith in humanity has diminished after playing this game and depending on teammates. But it does seem that the 430U over there is isolated. So we're going to scooch all the way across the map, just like we do. That's what the CS-63 does. I think we're going to swing by and pick up Big Scott, and then just go again, turn it into a 2v1. The UDAS is going to get on the cap, and I think that's actually a solid play. It's good. It's good, like, it's a good backup plan, just in case this doesn't go very well. But it does look like the Centurion is coming that way, so it might turn to, like, now that we know that he's there, if I was the UDAS, I would probably not be sitting on the cap, because now that Centurion knows exactly where you are, because you're on the cap, and you know that he's coming for you, right? But it is what it is. We will deal with that later if we have to. And so now Big Scott is getting in there with his IS-7 and the Ram. We love the Ram. Now we're still in. You see here, we're still in travel mode, and that's why that reticle's huge and we can't hit anything. But again, we're just Big Scott. It just keeps face hugging, but that's okay. Now it's a 2v1, and Big Scott is our meat, and so that's it. We just totally owned that fight. And depending on how this UDES does, Big Scott and Oscar are getting ready to resume pain train mode and come back, and even if this UDES dies, they're gonna go and clean up the Centurion either way. So this is a really good example of how you can, you know, with like just a CS by itself isn't that big of a problem, right? But a CS with a buddy like this and also going as fast as they go can be a real problem. So this is just, I don't know, just kind of a fun thing, and great job to Big Scott and Oscar. All right, so at the end of the game, the Oscar ended up picking up 4,900 damage, 5 kills. He did have one shot of, or 390 bounced block damage, and 373 spotting. It's only a second class, right? This is not the best game that anyone's ever had in a CS-63. But if you look at the team score, you had Oscar with 5 kills and Big Scott with 4 kills and, you know, 4,000 damage. The two of them together, the reason I wanted to show this game is that, right, one of them, either one of them taken separately, this is not that exceptional of a game. But when you take the two of them and what they were able to do because of their combination together, the two of them, it was pretty exceptional, and I thought that it is worth showing, and hopefully it was entertaining. This is the pain train, right? Go and find a friend, make some friends, and go make a pain train together, and have fun like this. This can be you, right? I will say the pain train can be expensive, right? Oscar did not have consumables purchased beforehand, so he had to buy a bunch of consumables. And so because of this, he made some money, but he had a bunch of missions. So without the missions, I think he would have broken even almost exactly. So it is what it is. It's tier 10. Buy your consumables in advance on discount. There's going to be a sale soon. So anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. All right.